You want to do that?
Yes, I would, and that's exactly what's going to happen in this process. You can't do that until you know what the contractual obligations are.
But not a cost benefit.
Well, you can't determine the cost benefit until you understand what the contractual obligations are.
So I make a motion that we direct staff to do a cost benefit analysis for committing the taxpayers of $120 million and present it back to the Board of Commissioners.
When you want to do that?
Give that direction right now.
No, I mean, when do you want it presented to you?
Before we make a commitment of $120 million.
I think it will happen. It's time that the contract...
I have a motion on the floor.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Wow. Where's the accountability?
Right.
Well, what is the purpose of your question? Do you want a presentation made to the board of the business decisions and the contractual obligations of Jackson Labs and the amount of money that will be provided and for what purpose over what period of time with what collateral? Do you want that kind of presentation?
I do, and also want a cost-benefit analysis.
That would be a cost-benefit analysis.
That is not.
How many cost-benefit analyses have you done for organizations?
What you're saying is a contractual obligation of Jackson Labs. That is not a cost-benefit.
The contractual obligation from Jackson Labs will obligate them to provide certain salaries at a certain number of jobs at certain salaries in Collier County. That is part of the overall financial analysis. It will also determine what our contribution has to be over time. That is our contribution to this. As we look at the collaborators who intend to locate here, we will make judgments about how much of that is real, whether or not there are any commitments, and if so, how can we depend upon them. That will all come as we begin to pull together the business, the agreement between us and Jackson Labs.
Well, we can agree to disagree.
Okay.
And move on, because we're not going to get anywhere on that.
Okay.
My last thing, and I can wait to 10B, if we're going to have yes, I will wait till 10B then on those questions of the bond validation.
Okay. Commissioner Halas.
Yes, Commissioner Coyle, I know you've had, you're the person that has been going with these ongoing conditions in regards to Jackson Labs. My question is to you, have you had any direct contact with Barron Collier and what they plan to do as far as getting involved in commitments in regards to building this out there? Are they going to help build this campus? Have they made any gestures in this manner? Also, have you had any contact that you can bring forth at this time of any private sector money that may also be in the wings? And I guess my third question is, do you know where the state is at this point in time in going through the contract, which you said is basically a boilerplate?
Yeah. Well, let me take your first question first, and that relates to Barron Collier. I've had lots of direct contact with Barron Collier Corporation. There was some initial interest in participating, perhaps in building the building, but that since seems to have evaporated. That is one of the reasons that we directed the staff to prepare an RFP to solicit proposals for private financing of the construction of the building. And yes, I have had informal contacts. I've had people contact me about the possibility of bidding on that. They are waiting for the request for proposal to be produced. We asked the staff to do that within 30 days from the meeting at which we provided the direction. and that is fast approaching. And I would ask that we re-emphasize our need to get that done as quickly as possible, so we'll have an idea whether or not there's private financing available. If there is, then we put that in the hopper, and we can consider it as an alternative as we move forward. And then we have to determine the financial impact on Collier County of that alternative. So we've got a lot of work to do with respect to that. It is critical to identify all of the sources of funding in order to make any reasonable judgments about the return on investment for this particular decision. So we haven't got that done yet, and if we issue the RFP tomorrow, it'll be probably at least 30 days before we get any responses. So it's very important that we do that. And did I answer all of your questions?
Yes, and I think basically this, again, hinges on the cost-benefit analysis,
yes.
Because if you don't know who all the players are going to be in this, there's no way that we can come up with something that's concrete or give a good justification in regards to the money that's going to be spent on this endeavor. So I think that we need to, hopefully we can get people to step up to the plate. I'm hoping that there's a lot of people on the sidelines, and I'm hoping that the landowner out there realizes that the time has come to get in the game here, and they can't continue to sit on the sidelines.
Okay, thank you, and you're absolutely right. We've got to get all this information pulled together as quickly as possible so that we can make a reasonable decision of any kind. Okay, we have public speakers.
Yes, so the first speaker...
Just a moment, we're going to swear them in first. Okay, anyone intending to speak on this item should stand up and be sworn in by the court recorder. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 speaker slips.
I have 3 speaker slips.
Okay. Then read the names of the 3 speakers who are going to be coming up.
Scott Bonham, followed by Noreen Murray, followed by Dwayne Billington.
Okay.
And your name is, sir?
What I was A or B.
So you've signed to speak to item 10B.
Okay.
My name is Scott Bonham.
Would you pull that mic over a little closer to you, please?
I can talk louder if you need. Is it okay?
That's fine, thank you.
I want to start out by telling you that I am not in my comfort zone physically or emotionally. I say that to let all know how concerned I am about this subject, about the results of this subject. The United States of America is a representative republic, currently under the control of the Democrat regime in Washington, D.C. Our country is rapidly advancing on the road to socialism. The next thing in line is communism. Don't smile at me. We can see it all over the world. Not one nation has ever succeeded with a socialist government. That can't happen here. It is happening now. Examples: Obamacare, GMC, that's government motors, student loans, Chrysler Corporation, and others I can't remember. There has been talk of a bill that might come around about increasing the cost of our electricity. And you folks are considering using our electric bills to tack on a payment to pay off this debt, this proposed debt. There is absolutely no reason for public money to be spent to the benefit of private business. Jackson Labs is the beneficiary of this proposed action by this board. Why should we citizens be required to finance a business? Collier County is a very desirable area to live in. You folks don't need to bribe business with our money to move here. Tax credits would do it. Why do you imagine that you are authorized to gamble with our money? At a previous meeting, I asked 2 questions. They were not rhetorical questions. I would like an answer to both now. How many hands-on employees work for Jackson Labs now? How many medically associated companies are clustered around Jackson Labs in Bar Harbor now? Well, not to use my time, thank you for hesitating. 130 million is an erroneous number. 260 million, $250 million, that's with a B. We pay state and federal taxes as well. Every personal decision has a consequence. I remember Stadium Naples. Do y'all? I assume my time's up.
Yes, it is, and I'll try to answer at least a couple of your questions. First of all, the number of other companies clustered around Jackson Labs in their current location is an interesting bit of information, but it's irrelevant, but I'll try to answer it. There are a number of smaller companies clustered in the area because of Jackson Labs. And as you will recall from hearing Commissioner Fiala's report on her visit there, the local government has said that they could not survive without Jackson Labs being there. The point of Jackson Labs' decision to move elsewhere for their Institute for Personalized Medicine is because they are surrounded by state and federal property which prohibits them from expanding. And secondly, they are somewhat isolated. They don't have a good access to scientists, the scientists they need for the research they want to do. So they've made a decision they're going to create a new business, not the same business they're doing in Maine, but to transfer their 80 years of knowledge of genetics research from breeding mice to be used in research to translating the information they have gained into providing better health care for people. So that's the reason. It's not a direct comparison. You're not taking what's in Bar Harbor, Maine, and bringing part of it down here. You're creating an entirely new business segment, which is the emerging interest in providing personalized health care for individuals based upon the genetics of that particular individual. I don't know, was there something I missed?
The other question was, how many employees do they have now? Hands-on employees, not administrative. I'm sorry.
I asked that question. They have 1,200 employees up there in Bar Harbor, and some of the other ancillary businesses that are not located on the property because of the state-owned properties are things I would have never recognized. Like, for instance, there's a place that makes gloves for the cryogenics lab. Who would have ever thought that? There are other places that create or make all of the cages that they use for these mice.